I'm fine.
Hello, everyone. Today, our episode, we hitting with a football coach, with a new football coach of the Lübeck Cougars, the new head coach this year, Philipp Stursberg, the longtime linebacker for the Lübeck Cougars. Hamburg Sea Devils, one of the fewest player, is left over from the NFL Europe time, the good old times. So we want to talk with him about his journey as a player and now becoming the head coach of one of the hottest programs in North Germany of the Lübeck Cougars, and of course his coaching channel, and about figured out what is the guy behind, why he's coaching football, where he comes from, and how everything goes on. With me again, Coach Mele. We are here from Ravensburg and now cross over the country. Philipp, how are you doing up there in Lübeck?
First of all, thanks for having me. I'm great. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too. Yeah, Philipp, how is it from linebacker now to be the football coach of the team you always play for? You always play with the Lübeck Cougars. Uh, how is it? Big footsteps. You coming in. How is it?
Well, except for the situation, it's a great feeling. Like when I took over from Mark Holze, who left big shoes to fill, there's always going to be a change if you have a change of a head coach. You know that. So I try to put at least a little bit of my stamp on the team right now. He helped me a lot, and I still have him there as a mentor, which he always was as a coach for me. The drive to get better as a coach every year, to go to clinics and to develop as a coach overall. That drive I have, like most likely from him, because he's one of the few guys in football I know that always tries to improve himself, tries to improve everybody around him, and gets more knowledge all the time. Like not only like football knowledge, but also like social skills or methods, how you teach things, and how you talk with two people, stuff like that. So the first big step I took when I took over is, because I know football is a lot of social energy you put in there. Like everybody in Germany has a job on the side. There's a few guys who are blessed enough to be paid for what they do and follow their passion, but most of us who don't get paid. So for me, the most crucial part is that for coaches and for players, as competitive as GFL2 can get, you invest a lot of yourself. So my major focus in the beginning was to put it on as many legs as could. So it started off with recruiting coaches, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important things if you have a program. Like, you cannot coach a team with 3 coaches. That's really not fair to the coaches, not fair to the players. It's not going to help you develop or growth. So the first thing you always should do before you start even thinking about practice is get in more coaches. And I know a lot of people who are like more come more out of the teaching area, or more out of like more business oriented, like companies that work with a lot of people. And when they start football programs, that's always their first approach. We need to get more people involved in coaching, so we have more manpower to transfer the knowledge to the player. Because that's in the end our job. We have to get the player ready to get it done. And we, like, I can have one coach on the sideline who knows everything, but there's 11 guys on the field who don't know nothing. So I don't know how to perform it.
Yeah.
And that's a true reason why this is so important for me. Like, not only to get better as a coach, but also how to teach coaches, how to get more coaches involved. And in the end, we left, I think, last year with 7 coaches. Then 2 of them left the program, or in the program moved to another position, like Mark. He's now sports director, which is needed because of our fusion with the other club in Lübeck. That became a bigger club, a lot of organization stuff that's needed. So it's not that he didn't do a great job. We ended up as 2nd place last year.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of organizational like matters where he has to attend to. We have not only that, but also we need to get the whole club structure ready for GFL in the future. And that's projects that he attends to now and tries to create value at that point.
Yeah.
So I started with, eventually, then I started recruiting coaches, and in like pretty early on, we had 10 already. But I said, okay, as long as I can push through recruiting coaches, I will do that. But I never argued with the players I want to reach that number or whatever. Like I always said, okay, I get as many as people as getting involved in the program, into my vision of the program, or the first team right now, not the whole program. And now we end, like in the beginning of the year, we had like 10, and then in the end of January, where we still were in the recruiting process for players, we ended up with 13 coaches.
Wow.
So, and my look behind that is not that we have to get more coaches involved, so everything is like working like a clockwork. Like we don't have to grind them. That's especially the reason, because everybody has jobs and everything. We still need a clear hierarchy, like head coach, coordinator, first position coach, second position coach. But in the end, like there's no way that I can tell a husband that he cannot go to his wife if she's sick, or his kid is sick, or he has to work late. That's the environment we live in. We have to work with, and that's why I get so many coaches. At least I try to get 2 for each position group. So if one of them has a schedule that we can plan with it, or which is also common in Germany, you don't take holidays in the season, but that is from February to August. Mm-hmm. So which is ridiculous. Like a lot of people try to do it, and then like somebody is always you're gonna hurt somebody in the team, in the club, or whatever, your position group, because you're not there, and that's why you don't do it. You feel bad for it if you do it. And like this, you have the luxury to say, okay, the other position coach is here, he will take care of it. And you don't have these, like what I saw over the years as a coach, especially in the youth or in the first team now, that you grind people too hard. And like, it's not like they would not put that in for their passion if they would be paid for it. They would do 60 hours, I bet you. Like nearly every football coach in Germany would do 60 hours if he would get paid. But they don't. They have a 40-hour job at home, and then they go to practice, or prepare practice, or prepare video, or like do a lot of stuff. So like that, you take that out of the equation. Like you always can say, I have a fallback, and and then I'm not this like dominant coach that has to say, okay, one of you has to be there. I just say, as long as one of you guys is there and you talk to each other how you want to handle it. Like I don't care. You handle it. And if somebody's there, it's fine. If nobody's there, I will still be able to figure out a way, because I have on each side at least 2 position groups with other coaches who perhaps can coach at least a few things at that position group. So I will always have at least everybody is getting coached every day. And that's the most crucial part, because we don't have so much time in Germany, and we have to use it as efficient as possible. And if there's possibly only 2 defensive coaches for 3 position groups, and they have a nice plan, like a nice team and nice indie periods, and then perhaps one-on-ones. But if they have only 2 coaches to coach 3 position groups, that all their plan is crap. Because then a player starts to coach, he will not get better. He will not give good feedback for the players, because he's not a teacher, he's a player, and all that. So that's the first step I took, and which was the most important part for me. And with that, you can have always, and we can talk about motivation of players in Germany. I think one of the biggest motivations is first competition, and second being coached.
Yeah.
And this is great motivational if you don't have scholarships or payrolls or whatever. This is a great tool to recruit, is to have a good coaching staff. And that's another point why I think that's better for German coaching, to have a big coaching staff. And it's not like it's too much. Like I could handle 15 coaches, no problem. Because if you have the right structure and a good hierarchy, and the social system between the coaches works, if they have the same motivation, like personal, passionate motivation, then it works always. And it was great to see that flourish in the beginning of the season. Like, and the second part was then I tried to, and Mark helped me with that more, because he was in that role a lot longer than I, with recruiting of players. But it was more like a mentoring. Like he was in a few of the player meetings in there in recruiting talks. But in the end, I think we talked to at least like first contacts 300, second contacts versus personal meetings like let's say 20-30% of that, who are like, there's only a few people like truly interested in what your program stands for, or think perhaps that they're not good enough for GFL2, which I never think in Germany, or GFL1. I think everybody can get coached to that level, except for people that don't put in the work. And then from that, we got kind of big chunk committed to our team in the end. So we ended up we started last season, like 2019, with I think 47, 48 passes, which is already very good for us because we did a good recruiting job last year already. But years before, Lübeck was always a small, like very close team, like 35 guys. End of the season, last away game, 25 guys, that's it. Like it was always 30-30 in the end. But right now, like you cannot go like that in the GFL. We tried that, we saw it didn't work. Like we have to get more coaches, we have to get better coaching in the team, we have to get better organization, and we have to get more players. And then we ended up this year with 65 players for the first team in the passes, which always, we know that injury, jobs, everything, like it's going to come down to normal game day roster. But it's a way better situation than we were in the last few years. Also, we got a few great additions in, like to both sides of the ball, which I'm really happy about. So all that work we put in for like at least, it was 6 months in the end, like coaching, recruiting, player recruiting, planning, coach meetings, all that. You know the drill. But in the end, it was 6 months, and it flourished really when we saw how many people can put into the program and into the first team and like develop like a true football team. Like you wish you would have it. Like this is really great situation I'm in, and as much I was like not really happy about the whole situation that we cannot hit the field right now. Like we had 2 day camps already with 2-a-days and meals between and barbecue in the end of the day, and really good like team bonding over month. And it already looked like football after 2 day camps, and we didn't hit the field in dress, like in uniforms for the whole winter. Like we did athletics, we did technique, we did everything helmets only. We did nothing like true like playbook related or installation or anything. And we have these day camps, and we installed them last year, and this is really great. And we can do that because of our great facilities you have right now, because of the fusion of the clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. How is this Germany right now for you personally? You start football playing with the Lübeck Cougars, become now the head coach. So you see the Cougars going bigger and bigger as you're now in the position, you say, having 13 coaches. How was for you as a player when you start with the Lübeck Cougars, and how was for you and the Lübeck Cougars this journey over the last years? Because at your playing time, you are one of the best linebackers in Germany. You played for Team Germany and winning 2 European championships with. So how that
First of all, thank you.
the Lübeck Cougars was going together this way.
Well, the beginning, I didn't even like when you start football, and I started in a time where like 1995, I started playing football, and back then football was.
Kindergarten at 1995.
What were you on? You were what? I didn't get it.
Kindergarten. I was in kindergarten at
Well, I was 15, so it wasn't like, but it's quite a while ago. It's right, but that's why I'm not playing anymore, right?
Yeah.
So when I started, that was very different. Like there was these situations that I now try to change, where you only have 3 or 2 coaches for the whole team, and we still had a great team, and not a small one either in Lübeck. And so I played 3 years for the youth. Before that, like I transitioned out of another sport, which is interesting. when we moved to northern Germany, we moved from Cologne. So I grew up in Cologne, or near Cologne, in a small village, and I played ice hockey before.
Oh.
So and then we moved up here, and there's an ice hockey team like in a city pretty close by. And yeah, at that point it wasn't that great because I left the Cologne Sharks.
Yeah.
The KIC, and which is now like they are a DL team, like one of the good teams in Germany.
Yeah.
And I left that youth and came here, and they were like a regional league, and I was like, I don't want that. Even though I was this like really small kid that didn't know about sports, anything, and I was like, I don't want that. And then after a year or so, we went with a friend of my brother to football practice, took a look at it. Next day or like next practice, I went there, and since then, perhaps missed 5 practices since I started because it hooked me right away. Like, yeah, but I started as a DN for the first, I think, 5, 6, 7 years, and then transitioned into linebacker in 2013. Because then we got a very good American head coach who knew much more about coaching than a few still in Germany know right now, because he had 40 years of high school experience, and he knew how to work with kids, and he knew a lot about psychology and how to really teach people stuff. And sometimes he had really like weird views. For example, he chewed on a cigar because we told him you cannot smoke a cigar on the sideline, even not on game days. Okay. Because he always smoked cigars his whole life. And we told him, like, you cannot do that. I was like, okay, can I keep it in my mouth and chew on it? We were like, it's fine, I guess. And we were already on a turf field back then, so he was chewing on that, spitting the whole thing around. But he was like an old, nice guy and really, really awesome coach, Milton Theodoratis, and I still have contact with him from time to time. And he really like was the first American coach who put a lot of knowledge in our system, in our program, and like the defense was not like fancy. It was a pretty old system, like a 5-3 system with true 5 linemen, but it worked for that time because he also knew every corner of it. Like, and that's where we first got a look at a coach who knows his system at a total, and also the offensive system we ran back then, and know how that you need to set up the techniques for the front or the coverage you want to run. That everything you do has a purpose, and there's still the team socialization part. You also always included very big. Which all of these factors helped us a lot to understand the whole thing. Yeah, that was in 2003. And he transitioned me to linebacker because back then I was already the fastest guy on the team, most likely, except for Patrick Wisniewski, who also went to NFL Europe as a running back back then. And he tried to get me to college in 2003 already. And I visited Rhode Island Rams and Iowa State Cyclones back then, and got letters of intent. But back then I already studied 3 years in Germany, and I didn't make the NCAA like regulations to be a college player. But 2 years later I went to NFL Europe, so that worked out pretty good because those guys came out of college, so I skipped that part. Yeah. Still have my German like computer science degree. Yeah, and for Europe then it was a whole different story. Like, it opened my eyes to so many things. Like I said, mentioned Coach Theodoratis. He already showed us that learning from a video is a lot, like, really important. But to understand and see how that can work out in a professional environment with NFL Europe, where they have 3 video rooms and you can use them whenever you want to, that was true heaven for me as a football player at that point. Like, you sleep in a hotel, you only have to go to practice, you only go to meetings, and then you have free time and access to video of everything. Like, this is a dream come true for any player in Germany. And I didn't understand a lot of American players who did use that. Like there were like 3 guys in the 3 video rooms nearly every night, and it was one of the tight ends, myself, and one of the special teamers, which is crazy. but we watched the crap out of those videos, like made comments and everything, and also I had the great privilege to be coached by Donald Brown back then as a D-line coach, who later on also went to Germany as a coach from different teams, like a head coach. Back then he was my D-line coach, and he gave us little like homeworks, I would say, like grade the offensive line, for example, for 1 week, or next week get out the pass protection patterns they run, or so he tried to teach us by letting us do the work, which is truly the best way to teach. So when I handed my papers in, the others, they made notes like, yeah, he's an A, he's a B, he's a C, and that's it. And I put him 2 or 4 papers with like this protection, he tends to lean on his right and whatever. And he was said, okay, we have those, and then I have this lecture here. At least you're prepared. But I think that was the part that gave the coaches the confidence still in my rookie year to put me on the field in the first game. Like, and in the 4th game, they made me like, we didn't have always starters. Like we had first lineup, but we always rotated like everybody in. Like this, we had only a few guys that were not rotated in, and they made the coaches do that. Like if you're not performing or not preparing right, you cannot get on the field. But I had great coaches, and like all of them, not only my D-line coach. And they gave us the opportunity if we could make it. And that was a great, great experience at that point in time, because I knew at different teams, for example, around Fire, they had, especially the national players, like the Mexicans, Japanese, European players, they don't have a lot of credit. And they, like back in Europe, there was a rule that every second drive, they put a sign up and you had to play at least one non-American player every second drive. And we had 4 national starters at once. With Sebastian, myself, Aiden Dirty, and who was the last one? I think the Swedish safety, Patrick Lindqvist. And we were 4 on the field, like from the beginning of the game. And other teams were like, are you fucking crazy? And like, the coaches know. We trust in them. They earned it because they know their plays, they know their schemes, and they perform in practice, so they let them play. And that was, and other teams really said, okay, we have to put somebody in. We take somebody who has a German pass or a European pass, and so they can use that as a loophole to have the most competitive team. And other teams did that. So it was very, very fortunate in that position at that point of time. So I learned so much about, especially competitiveness. That's, I think, as a player, what helped me later on in GFL or GFL2 or in the national team the most was the competitive way of thinking of every play and finish what every coach says, finish to the whistle. But German football, a lot of times, it's the 2-second play. Like the play goes for 5, but a lot of players stop after 2. And that's one of the crucial part, I think, as a head coach or coordinator, you have to manage. Like, I don't think that you have to have a common goal that you follow with some sort of drills, teaching, coaching, whatever, that you put that into people. But because if you can do that, you will win a lot of plays and a lot of games out of effort only, because so many players don't put the effort in the play every time. And I learned that like the hard way from the beginning. First camp, first day, first hit, I was, okay, this is different. Like, right off the box. And then every play from then was like hard work, like truly competitiveness. Even in the least effort practice, you would not have anybody in front of you would give you less than I give you my best. And this is insane when you go back then to German Division 2 or Division 1 even, and meet players who think, okay, I'm big, that's enough. Okay, I'm strong, I'm fast, that's enough. But if you then are like smart, fast, and strong, and you out effort somebody, like you're gonna be on top in Germany. And a lot of people, and especially players, don't get that. And that's why I think in Germany every player has a chance to play GFL 1 and 2.
Why do you think players don't get that? Because that's one thing I look at too, and I try to teach that everywhere I've been at, is that effort. But your opinion personally, why do you think players don't understand that they need to have 110% effort? Like, because you just said, right, they'll play for 2 seconds and it's done.
Yeah, exactly. You can see, if I watch tape, I get mad at my players if they stop after 2 seconds. I tell them not to leave the room, but I cannot coach you like that because you're not showing me like something. Like, I cannot coach nothing. I need to see something so I can coach it. But I think if you don't truly put them in an environment, and I think that's perhaps the best goal for a coach, to build up that environment that is needed to create this sense of urgency that he has to put 100% effort in there until it's over. It has to be controlled though, because if you do that all the time, it's like it's in drills or anything. Like, it has to be in any team play you take. Like, if you don't put effort in there, like the play is wasted. And it's hard to create this environment, but especially because if I talk to you and if you like felt it in the States, like this is different. But to explain that to a player that never experienced it, that's hard. So you need to get those players who know how to do it and create this environment for everybody else. That's why, for example, when I have my defense going soft because our offense is going like not at high pace, they have a lazy day, I tell them, like, if they don't crush them like now as hard as they can and don't adjust to their mentality, like, we will not get anything out of this. But if they see that if the defense puts up the best pressure they can, and they then, like, if both look bad, then it looks okay from the outside because it looks like they challenge each other. But if one team, like one side of the team or one person before the other, like it can be in one-on-ones or in any situation on the field, like destroys the other person, then the other person don't want to have that happen again. Mm-hmm. And that's how I think it's a good way to create that. And it's not to put the best player against the worst player to create this. It's a good against a good player, but the mentality has to be way different. And then you can show them, see, that's pure effort, pure will to execute that and come out way on top instead of just battling and nobody wins any ground. That's not, like, you don't win anything with that. Mm-hmm. But I think we went still sideways from my career in Lübeck. But that's like a major point. But what I learned in NFL Europe as a player and as a coach, you want to create that environment. I know that it has to be an everyday thing in your back of your head and not something you plan for or something. You have one drill where you do competition and then everybody understands it. It's not going to work that way. It has to be in every live rep, I would say. If you're not teaching, if you're executing, it has to be that mentality.
Yeah.
And then I decided, like a lot of people after NFL Europe decided that I will not earn a living from that. Back then, there were a few examples. Peter Heyer is one of the best examples that even went to the Kansas City Chiefs and could not be activated as a national player because he was in the practice squad. So those people then get a chance to go into NFL Europe as free agents and not as national players, which took away all their like other rights they would have as a national player, like getting plays and stuff like that. And a lot of teams, like I mentioned, didn't have those open-minded coaches. So I said, if I go as a free agent in another team and I don't get trusted, I get cut. So I lose the whole chance. And I don't get the national practice team, NFL's practice squads. And then they had to make the decision, most of them. So, and nearly none of them made that decision because they didn't have the college experience, and no coach would ever trust a player that didn't went through college. The really fortunate place we are today, and that we can send players to high schools through the college system, and then people like Björn Werner and Casimir Dybala come out of that. This is so awesome to see that this is possible in Germany, because we already back then had the potential to do that. Like like 20 years ago, I think, in my opinion, there were a lot of players. And it's not like me, it's other players that were way better than me at that point.
Yeah.
So I decided I will not, like, I'm too old for that, like to have that as a career. But I didn't have made my my computer science degree. I didn't have it yet, so I decided to go back and finish that degree. And after that, keep playing as much as I can, because I knew, okay, I was too old to have those opportunities. Like, I would perhaps play 2 other years, perhaps get a national practice squad in the NFL, so to experience all that. But in the end, I knew when I have my degree, I will get like at least the same amount of money for sure for the next 60 years when I start working.
So smart decisions all the way.
Again?
Smart decisions all the way. You always that focused on that, you know. I mean, this is tough when you say you play NFL Europe. I mean, like you say, a lot of players try to go then to the States and, you know, getting unfortunately hurt or something like that. But you say, you already say, I want to be.
Well, at that point, I also get hurt. That was another point. But they asked me if I want to come back in 2006. But I said then, okay, I have to finish my degree first, and then we see what happens. And I finished it, and then decided to go like further from bachelor to master and go earn, like, do it the normal German way, because I was eventually too old to do any kind of professional sports at that point. I was 25 years already, and to start the professional career at that point is pretty late. I was also one of the like oldest NFL Europe players who started playing there. Like, there were a few guys who already been there for a few years, but I was one of the oldest, like, starting off their like NFL Europe career. Wow. Yeah, and then I finished that. 2008, I got the invitation for the national team, and from 2008 to 2014, I played there. Sometimes I didn't, like, different coaches got different players for the different, like for the World Games, for example. I think it was 2007 in Japan. I didn't play there, but I played both European Championships 2010 and 2014 and won them with the team. And also back in 1998 with the youth national team, I also won the European Championship. Wow. So I took part in 3 championships, Europeans, and never lost. So I'm the trinket.
Awesome. And you are I was in the stadium 2014, Austria, Ernst Happel Stadium. I mean, people out there.
Great stuff.
28,000 people, and it was like 600 German fans or something. I remember I was staying up singing the German national anthem. I was a fan in the stands, and everyone, I was like, oh, cool, this is loud. And then the Austrians stand up and everyone yelling out. And this game was unbelievable. This game,
yeah, it was great.
Also, and I think it was for European level, without any American teams or NFL Europe involved. It was one of the biggest and most entertaining games ever.
I think also it was like a great, in the end, a great commercial for our sport, European-wise. Like, Austria getting better and better over the last decade, and really being a competitor on the same, like, not the same level because they lost in the end, but on a real, very, very competitive level, with such a not as big as a country as France, for example, that they won the next European Championship.
Yeah,
it's great to see, to have that like level of competition in the whole Europe. Is great. I think I don't want to put too much credit for Germany, but a lot of those players play in German teams, like from France and from Austria right now. Like, some of them got into Germany because of that, but some of them came into their national teams because they played in Germany. But in the end, if we see football growing in whole Germany and Europe, I just love it, and that the competition gets even bigger and greater, and like, it's just great to see. To for example, like, in comparison to football was 20 years ago or something.
Absolutely. And then what you always say, the coaching, I mean, I've been around in a lot of countries in Europe, around Germany, and I always say the biggest difference to German football to other countries is the teams understand we need more than one coach. You know, you still have this mindset in other countries like, no, you're the head coach, you're full-time, I hire you, you're the only one. Like, we talk about offense, defense, O-line, quarterback. What we talk about, you're the only one. And in Europe, like you say, even achieve a 2-team, say we need 13 coaches, you know, with all the effects you say about, you know, guys going on vacation or something. Or, I mean, they're having a normal life. So this is the biggest difference. That's why people from Poland, Czech Republic, Austria, they're coming to us. Because now look at the big teams, Swago Raiders and Vienna Vikings. They have a lot of coaches, but all the other teams around they don't. So this is what the German football makes so outstanding, is people putting the work in also as a coach. So that's absolutely a great thing. So when you decide to stop playing football, getting into coaching, when you say
well, I started coaching in 2003, which was not really early, but pretty early. Was 23 years old. Got into it like most of the people do. You're still interested in the sport. You want to help out. You get asked if you want to join a coach in the team. And so I joined our youth team as in the first year already as a DB coach and defense coordinator, which for me at that point, transitioning from DN to middle linebacker to coach DBs was interesting, but it opened up my knowledge about football a lot more. But that's why I try to get young, especially good players into coaching really fast, because it's gonna put in a whole nother dimension to your game if you know more about the game. Right. Like if you can, like I don't recommend them put him in a defense coordinator spot right away, like I was. But to put him in a position coaching and with a good coordinator on top who can teach them even more about the game that they don't need only for their position group, that's great experience. And also it puts in a whole other dimension for good players, because they understand how important it is to be a soldier at some point. Because if you feel that as a coach, that there are some players who think, that's not right, and like argue with you in a not positive way in front of everybody, like this stuff is hurting just everything. And you can still argue and you can still make your point and everything is okay, but as if you then put yourself in the role of the coach, it's going to be a whole different perspective, and then you approach it differently. Like you're going to ask after practice or in the right moment, and use the right language, and not be and especially for some young players who are like great athletes who never needed to know a lot about the game, for example. That's, in my opinion, always a great thing to put them through to get more like awareness of the situation before, like except for what is happening on the field, but also for that reason.
Yeah.
So I started then and did that for quite a while. And when I started playing for the national team in 2008, I started also being for our all-star team from the state, Schleswig-Holstein, being the linebacker coach at that point. And learned there also from another great coach, André Schlemann, who was the defense coordinator at that point from that team. Learned a lot of things from him, so also got deeper knowledge about football from a different coach. Like it was always great for me to be in some kind of, as a player or as a coach, in some kind of all-star or German national team, to get more knowledge, to talk to players, to talk to other coaches, to get other mindsets, to get other perspectives on different things, why you run stuff. And I learned, like I got to know so many great personalities and people through that. That's for me one of the biggest and finest things that we have in Germany are these teams for the state or for the national team, because it also makes you look over the horizon. Like the team that you play is not always your opponent. Like, it's not your enemy. It's on the field. You have to have competition, but football is like, right now we are 60, 70,000 in Germany that follow this passion.
Yeah.
Why should anybody of those, this is a crucial low number of the total popularity of Germany, why I should be any of those? Like, it makes no reason at all. Like, on the field, sure, I have to have an enemy. Like, there has to be competition. But after that, I would be stupid not to talk to them, to learn more about the game, to get better at the game, to cherish our passion. Like, and that's why I always love this stuff, and that's why I always share knowledge. When I love sharing knowledge at the end, like, because I think whenever I share knowledge, I start a dialogue with somebody, and then I learn something from it.
Where do you think that mindset came from? Because, like, I mean, like Coach Sebastian was trying to get to, at some point you went in full-time coaching, but just picking your brain, where from your personality did you kind of, you know, become to be that person when you're like, hey, I want to keep learning, I want to kind of learn from people? Because I'm kind of the same way. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even like, for example, there's a lot of coaches out there, for example, when they go into, let's say, clinics or conventions, they always think, oh, I know everything, so I shouldn't go into this talk. And I really don't care how basic the talk is. I mean, for me, the biggest thing was being out here, you know, all from transitioning, being an import and then coaching, of course, with the language. That's always interested me because I want to see how it was described in German, because I have German players. But for me, the thing was like, maybe this coach explains, however basic it may be, a certain technique, maybe another way, and then I could use that way of explaining it to maybe then communicate with another player. So, like, that's what's interesting for me, kind of seeing like why certain coaches are that way and where they got that from, because not everybody's the same mentality.
I think there's always the part from the human being that thinks if he went through some kind of bad situation that he never wants to get back into that. And it's not always or change that situation. And for me, that's like in a very personal way, really deep in myself, that if I'm not happy with the situation, I can change it. Like, why hold out any situation that is not good for you? And then at a certain point in my life, I said, okay, why I should only look at myself when I see at situations and don't want to keep like that. Like, at a certain point, like, you have to look at the situation and say, okay, I'm fine, but this person is not fine, so I change that. You have to pick and really choose the stuff you want to change, because you cannot change the whole world. But that motor that is in myself, if I see something wrong, I want to change it, because why keep something bad up? This is like on a personal level, but also very strong, and with that being given in football life in general, like as a player or as a coach. If I don't like something, I will tell you. But it's always in a good way, I hope, and I will have a dialogue about it, and I will try to put myself in a position where I can change that. And this is my driving factor, where I think this is coming from, and the most underlying point about that is what I want to change always is that I know, for a reason, that you never know everything, that you have to keep pushing for more knowledge, or more at least more information about where to get that knowledge, or a more broader network of people who can help you out with getting that. And yeah, if you get at that point in life, I think a lot of people do at some point, it becomes natural. Like, why should I not talk? Even if I don't like to people, I sometimes talk to them, because I know perhaps I can take something out of it. Like, yeah, I think it's a big motor if you reach that point.
I always love, and sometimes I feel there's too much, you always said before, hiding. When I come after a game, you know, you always shake hands, good game, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But when you come back from the locker room, and this is what I feel was in Czech Republic when I was there. That was really great. You sit down with coaches before the bus is leaving, like, hey, why you call cover 2 there? And sometimes, oh no, I don't play cover 2. I'm like, why you call in this situation this coverage? What you show for me? I told you when you play trips, your tendency was 80% bootleg. So this is why I put my linebacker to the trip side. And I don't know, but this was what I was thinking. Okay, now you run opposite because you see I missed the linebacker there. Whatever. Why you're doing stuff like this or this or this? I always loved it, and I feel when I was in Czech, that was really open. The guys was like, okay, then don't show the playbook, but of course we can talk back and forward why you do this and why you do this. Sometimes I feel like last year in Switzerland, there was no way. That was like really no. We don't play trips. You did? I mean, what? You're also a guy like that because I'm also a young coach. I always love to chat with people after the game and sit down and say, hey, that's why we do it. I feel you have to have the same mindset.
In the end, I think there are a few parts to it, but I think one thing is first that people are scared of being caught up. But it's only the mindset of being scared, like that they think probably they don't do it right or that they don't know it right, they don't know the right words. So it's more of the unsecureness than fear about talking about it. I know other coaches who still think that this, like, not talking about it because you're going to make your opponent better, but they don't see that you're always, out of any dialogue, you get something out of it that you also get better. And they, like, most likely they will not develop any further than the point they reached, or they go into clinics and pay money and stuff like that. But I think they hold themselves back and hurt themselves in the end. And funny thing is, most of the really experienced coaches I know, they talk open about everything. Mm-hmm. Like last year, we had a few great coaches in GFL too, like Andreas Normanson, OC from Elmshorn, or Joe Roman, the defense coordinator. Like, we talk plain football, and also about players. That sometimes is more funny if players tell you, like, yeah, this team said that and they do this, and no, I talked to them yesterday. They don't do that. Like it's sometimes really funny because, like, if you have such a open dialogue with other coaches about these situations, but I understand the point of view of those people who don't talk about it, but I don't respect it. Like, it's my kind of my cup of tea, and I think they're gonna hold themselves back over a long time. They will. Any other coach will make bigger progress than they are because they don't talk about it.
Right, and at the end of the day, I always look at it. I mean, my always thinking and why I have to find a way to get better. Like, it's also like kind of like deep inside. It's like, it's ultimately the players. I'm doing the players a disservice by not getting better, because at the end of the day, and this is my honest opinion, at least for me, I don't care what I do coaching wise. Like, it's wins and losses or whatever it is, like championships. It's all great. You know, it's like a reward. You see the process. But I look at in terms of, okay, if I get better this offseason, if I go to clinics, if I learn, if I talk to other coaches, right? Who's getting better? My players. And that's what I want to get better. I want my players to get better so they can grow, not only on the field, but what? And we talk about it all the time, but in life. Because life, you know, is much harder than football. You know, whatever little thing we can help teach them, not only, especially when we do with men, but also the kids, the youth, like with the All-Star team, the state All-Star teams. That's a minus, at least for me. That's my driven deal. Where I look at it, it's like, I got to get these guys better, you know. And it's a beautiful thing, that process, seeing them just blossom as players and as individuals.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It has to be our ultimate goal. Like, if we get better, like I said before, if there's one coach at the sideline who knows everything and the players, 11 guys on the field, don't know anything to do, like, we achieve nothing.
Yeah, and I think this comes together now. You finish this topic, becoming the head coach, and of course you have right now, I don't know how many players you have. You have a foundation of the Lübeck Cougars and the Lübeck Seals. You are the new head coach. Probably this mindset, what you say, brings you to this point. How many? I mean, the whole journey you say you had as the first coach. I mean, the Lübeck Cougars coming right now to one of the biggest programs in North Germany with all this foundation and having this coaching staff. Yeah, how that comes together, I don't know if you don't want to go in details, but now you come up with this great facilities. This helps you, of course, also as a coach. I know the facilities. There you're having bigger meeting rooms right now. Everything. How you think is this helps your coaching and all that stuff in building this program really big over the next years down there? I don't know. You have probably some numbers, how many players you have right now and members, members of that.
Oh my God. Well, first for the fusion of the clubs, we at that point had above 500 members in the ASC Lübeck, because we are an American sports club. So we have cheerleading also. We have multiple cheerleading teams. We have dance teams. We have a bowling team, which is great. Oh, like they don't exist for a long time, but they win state championship already. And we have lacrosse teams, different teams. We have 3 youth teams in great shape. One of them GFL juniors. I'm sure I will forget somebody.
Yeah.
So we are like, that's also why we are so stable right now in this bad times we go through, because we have so many members. Like, and then the Seals came on board last year, or in the beginning and end of last year. Like the fusion was officially in the 1st of January this year. And last year we had different like member meetings to make votes on if we want to do that, on different contracts. There were so many people involved, like lawyers, multiple lawyers, because the German club rights are really like in depth, and you have to see what about facilities, what about if you're in debt, so much stuff you have to take care. And there were so many guys involved, and you cannot name anybody, but everybody. But it was a true team effort to get that done, and a lot of people put a lot of time in there to make it happen. And then the Seals in the end had around 100 members, and not all of them were players. Like we also have a few Seals players who really help us in the first team. A lot of them went to the second team. There were still this kind of awkward situation in the beginning, like last year, but they also started playing last year. Like last year they don't have any team in any division.
Yeah.
The players already came to our team. Not all of them, because it was kind of awkward, but then when they saw they get treated the same, they will get taught, they will make progress. Like they said, okay, this is a good thing, let's keep on pushing. And then after the fusion was done, we could also really put time in those facilities, because with 100 members, there's probably 20 members that are not active, if at all. You cannot make those facilities staying in great shape. With now, we're above 600, close to 700 members. There's a lot of members who want to help at that field and that facility to make it something great. And this is an incredible opportunity for the club to make something great out of that. So talking about facilities, it's in fact 2 big meeting rooms, like 2 equipment rooms with helmets and everything you need as for mechanic wise, like tools and everything you need to do. 2 washing rooms for like to get anything cleaned up. You need to get cleaned up after practices. Like it looks like a small high school in the end.
Yeah.
A coach office was created there. We have 2 big lockers. We have a small gym right now, like not really big, but like 40 square foot. And you have a squat rack, you have a bench, you have leg press, you have dumbbells, you have anything you need to do workout. In small groups. Like groups by 10 can work out there, and it's great for the youth. They do that all winter, twice already yet now. And then we have the turf field, which we have 24/7 access to. Like we only have to manage our teams on that. That thing, we're in Germany, so we need the night times or an evening time, so we still have to manage it. Like we cannot just go there. And we still have our second turf field in Lübeck where, for example, once a week our second team practice there, once a week our youth teams practice there, U16, U13. So because not everybody, because of Lübeck, can work at the evening on that field through the whole week. But still, it's awesome. Like you have anything. You have big containers with football equipment there, other big containers like sea containers. Like a lot of teams do that. I know that. Like get big sea containers for cheap money and put the equipment there so it's weather is not destroying it over time.
Absolutely. That's what I want to say. You because I know how it looks there. You have a high school setup there. I mean, I've been in this.
I think so. Yes.
I see normal small high schools. You have a high school setup there, and I think this would make the Cougars organization or the RF, say Lübeck now, unique out there. You know, I mean, there's teams going up, going down everywhere, and this that's something that makes you great. How you handle the corona right now? You're having meetings because you say you have a foundation come together, preparing for GFL2, and you are a GFL2 team who always finish under the top 3. I don't remember a year when the Cougars worse than 4 or something in the last years. You're always great team down there, up there. How did slow down now everything? How operations slow down? You have meetings, something online, of course.
Well, we had a bad time before, so we nearly went down the 3rd division like 3 years ago. But that's past. And before that, we had a great team, and now we're back on top again. So, yeah, how we handle that? We were in the transition to camps. We had 2 day camps, like I mentioned, in these facilities, which is great. You can have a complete practice. You go inside, have a meeting. You can have a meal. You go outside, have another practice. You go inside, shower, take care of yourself, have a barbecue as a team. This is pure heaven for a football coach to have these kind of facilities, which also makes it so important in the preseason for us to have those facilities, because not a lot of teams can just meet up at some facility for a whole day of practice and get like 2 weeks of practice worth of time out of this, because you get so much more knowledge into a person if you go through a whole day and not only one practice for 2 hours and then they go home. So this is such a great addition for the whole program, because the first team can do much more professional practice. And so we were just in transition, like we were 3 weeks before camp, 4 weeks before we played the Berlin Rebels. So we would have two more day camps. The team camp, like we would be ready. Like I had great confidence in our team, and I still have it. And then Corona came, and then everybody, like, you have to take care of the person first. Like anybody is in a really special situation. That's why I put no pressure at nobody right from the beginning and say we need to do this, or to keep some kind of like we need to meet every week so we don't get too distant and stuff like that. Our team has a pretty good social bond. That's also because we did every 5 weeks since November. We did team bonding. We didn't do practice. We did the Tuesday and the Thursday or Friday, depending. Every 5 weeks, we did, for example, go in the airball park and shoot at each other, or we went out and did ice stock season. I think it's curling.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Did curling as a team, which is great fun. Everybody on the ice and with normal shoes and having a little glühwein. That was great. Then we had once on the Christmas market in Lübeck, which is really famous. We have a few players from Kiel, from Hamburg, from other small villages. So we all enjoyed Christmas market together for once. Then we had once, the Lübeck Old Town is really famous, like in Europe, for having one of the few oldest structures and really nice, small backyards and all that. And there are a lot of different tours through that, and we did one of those with the team, so we know a little more of the history of the city and everything like that. So we did, I think, in the end, 8 team buildings over 4 months, and everybody got to know each other, and put that also, like, we didn't do that before. Like, we did once, perhaps having some kind of good time or whatever, but I said, okay, every 5 weeks we do that, we plan it. It takes a little bit of planning, takes a little bit of money, but what the team gets out of it, it's so great if you start so late with clinics or mini camps, and your team has already bonded. You don't have to take care of so much of the social aspect in practice, which if you have collision, emotions, effort, and competition, if you put that already in there, and then the people don't know each other too good because they were in the gym all winter and are eager to fight, then like, you set them up to fail sometimes. And with that, you can handle the situation much better, because you know the people better. As the coaches, you get to know them. The people get to know their position group better and all that.
Yeah.
So it's, in my opinion, a better approach in Germany to do this much more than most of the teams do. And everybody is really like welcoming it, just putting €5 in, and that's it. And most of the time you're going to have a good time together, and that's important, I think, especially if you know that you probably for the season you're not going to see a lot of different people. Like,
yeah,
it's part of football life in Europe. Like, you will not see a lot of people other than your team in the season. But sometimes your family and like extended family, friends perhaps, but for the rest of the time you're going to see those guys.
Yeah, it's always tricky. And you come up with your own idea how you fill up your unexpected free time right now. I can't sleep. So what you did, what you're doing, because I mean the most people know it already. What was your idea, how to come to it, and what it is?
Yeah, I started the YouTube channel. I had this idea for a few years now, and it was created a few years ago, and I just renamed it. And so I started Stursberg Coaching, which is a YouTube channel to transfer knowledge in German for German coaches. Because as I transitioned into coaching 2003, and then transitioned into coaching coaches in 2008, where I started to coach C license in our state, and then later on started to coach position groups and defense tactics in other states too for the C license, which is the 3rd highest license you can get, or the 1st and the 3rd highest. After a while, then they asked me if I want to coach the B license in Frankfurt, which is central for the whole Germany. And now it even got extended, which normally it is only like once a year for 20 guys, 25 guys. And now they have 2 of them, because there are so many people want to go and do the licenses or get better overall. And it is a high chance that we get involved with the coaches that are doing the B right now with the A2, because they see the benefit of German coaches coaching German coaches, because Americans always have their own environment and their own circumstances they have to handle, which is either you're a high school coach and you have 40 new players every year because it's school, so you get new players, or you're a college coach and then you get scholarships where you can pick and choose players if at best. Sometimes we were lucky and had American coaches who were having lectures who were in the similar situation where they don't have so many scholarships, but they still have a program and facilities and all that stuff, which is not comparable to anything we are handling, and also not comparable to football in Europe, because none of us have college football, like, or university football, anything like that. We have 6 university teams, but they are fun teams.
Yeah.
When I started coaching, I always had that, like, transferring knowledge in me. I want to, because I think it's also a self-growth that takes part in there. Like I said, you have a dialogue with others and you're going to extend your own knowledge by teaching others. And then I said, okay, how can I put that on a bigger scale? at some point, because I knew every time I hold lectures, like, oh, this is great, I should have knew that earlier, or like if it's basic stuff or extended stuff, most of the time it's in between, but it's about a German talking, or in the native speaker talking in his native language about all the little things, why things work and don't work. Like a lot of Americans think that's common knowledge, and in Germany a lot of things are not common knowledge, which is football, but because we don't do it since we were 5 years old. So the German perspective, and I think also my special perspective as I have apprentices for my job in my company. So I have 2 apprentices for computer science in my company, and that has to be, you have to have a certificate in Germany to be to teach apprentices. And that's also a part that makes me more aware of everything you need to know about coaching and about transferring knowledge. And so it's always driven me, and it's the more I put time in it, not only with this YouTube channel now, but at work or in private, I see that it's a motor that drives me a lot to work with people, to transfer knowledge, and to widen their perspective, if you want so. So I started that channel, and I have 2 series up now. One is about truly coaching football, especially in long term. So the knowledge, first of all, you get the knowledge transferred right to the player or to the coach, and also that that it's sustained knowledge. So in 2 or 3 weeks or in a month, that he still has a very high chance that he knows that skill, that he can work out that skill, that he knows the playbook at that point. So and how you can take care of that, for example, as a coach and the major point I try to make there is that, for example, in athletics, there is way more scientific views on how to teach and how to develop people. For example, if you think about a 100-meter runner, you have so many tests that he takes, like physically or biologically, that you can see he gets better or not. And then you do your drill again, and you test again, and then you see if it's getting better or not. And with a lot of football, we don't do that, especially in Europe. I think some programs perhaps do it, but not in this depth, because you can extend that to techniques, you can extend that to playbook knowledge, you can extend that to anything. And some people do it, for example, playbooks that do tests. But who really takes this test and then sees, okay, this is a lack of knowledge at that point? We have to go there and cancel that. Like, we have to get this knowledge into the player and then do the test again and see, okay, this worked, and have this scientific approach to it. And I think a lot of German coaches don't do that. And I have this lecture, you can check it out on my channel. And the other one is about how to pick a defensive system, where I talk about defensive systems in general, and not really about in-depth how you play cover 2, for example, because that's a different lecture later on. But what do you have to be aware of if you take, like, for example, you have a 4-3 or a 3-4. I just cannot go from one to the other, because there are so many concepts behind it that I have to be aware of, that also going to have effects on the coverage, on the run fits, on the read of the linebacker. So on different techniques I coach for different positions, just because I draw a 4-3 or 3-4 or 3-3. And to understand it as a coach, this works this way, is pretty easy. But to then understand, if I pick a system a certain way, I have to teach all these different techniques before that works on the field. And to commit to one straight line in the end that fits everything, the front to the blitz, to the coverage, to the run read, to the run fit from everybody, from the back 7. That's another point I try to make, because a lot of people think, okay, I just put up another system and it works. You have to figure out how your techniques that you coach from the beginning, and it's not tackling and blocking I talk about, but for example, a great example is breaking a double team. If you play a 3-4 attack defense or a 3-3 attack defense where the defense line slants all the time, or most of the time, or a 3-4-3 where you have play half a man, a shoulder, put your hands in there, that's a whole different technique. And then if you say, I play a double team, that's a technique you coach. the developed technique. And every system needs like 3-4 base run and 3-4 base pass techniques for every position group that you need definitely. If it's a drop from a linebacker, and for the special coverage, it's a different drop. Cover 2 wall technique or cover 4 drop spot or whatever. Just for examples. So you need to be aware of that you cannot just draw something up, and even if the player understands that, he will not perform it, because there's so many other things to pick in the defensive system that you know the skills of the players. And those kind of work together, those two systems, like those two topics I started with, really, because it's so important to understand, to coach something over time and make it really about scientific approach, coaching that. And then be aware of that this takes time. And then on the other part, if you pick a system, all that has to be included if you really want to make it at a high level or at some level. But I think in any level, it can be managed to write down a number from 1 to 5 of a player to a technique.
Yeah.
And then after a month, you can say, okay, did I work on that? Did I didn't work on that? Okay, it didn't work, so I have to get back on that. And don't say, a lot of things, like I mentioned before, happen because you see stuff happen over time and you say, okay, this has to change. One thing that happened over time, not to myself, but to other players I know, he can't tackle. Why? Why? And then after a year, he still can't tackle. Why? You're not doing your job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then if you have this normal drill, for example, for tackling, and you have 5 coach points, and grade those 5 coach points, and then a year later you say, these 5 coach points are the same, then you say, okay, you didn't coach that coach point. And you can break it down to everybody knows what I'm talking about. If I talk about the drill coaching points in the drill book. And those are stuff that are rudimentary in German coaching that people have to just understand as they learn the knowledge. And football is not a study where you open up a book, learn it, and go in the field and do it. Football is something you have to learn from somebody who did it.
Yeah.
My opinion. Just not the truth, but my opinion.
No, absolutely. That's why I also always, when you make your season plan, your 12 or 40 months plan, I always put also in, okay, where we want to be at what point, because
exactly
what we want to coach and where we want to end up. So sometimes players say, when I look at it, technique. When we go to tackling, I was like, before we go to tackling, we need to, for me, this is the last point. I need to come from point A to point B to come in front of the person with the ball and make a tackle. But how I come there, this is always sometimes hard to get the guys understand. And how much you think it helps as you make this
just I cut in there. I have the same analogy on man coverage. People who do ball drills with their defensive backs, I hate it. I let my DBs practice 3 times a year with the ball. Yeah. Because if you're not in the right spot to catch the ball, you will not catch the ball. So what I do most is like man technique or their pattern reads on the whatever pattern coverage we run right now. So we need to do that much more than catching the ball, because they do that anyway.
Yeah, it's always, I'm also a big DB guy, Coach Mele also, and you. For me, it's always interesting when you talk to the guys, okay, how you play man-to-man before. We press them outside or we press them inside. Okay, so what's your first hand doing? Is he soft? Is he pushing? What you're doing? There's a difference between man-to-man open field and man-to-man on the goal line, man-to-man on a 1st and 10 or whatever. No, we line up face to face 1 yard away.
And the big thing. And the big thing the players always say is, where's the ball? During individual, where's the ball? It's like, you guys don't deserve the ball. Like that. I always did it with the All-Star team in Bavaria. Every year, I was like, the coach would say, why don't you use the ball? It's like, because they can't even backpedal. Why can't I bring the football out? I was like, no.
Yeah. Especially in youth teams, you need to grind those techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always say when we're teaching young coaches, also with intern clinics. I say on defense, besides a D-liner who react on the snap of the ball, we don't need a ball. Get all your reads right. If you use your eyes, sometimes stay up. What is your hand? What is your hand doing when the left eye or right eye is seeing this? And yeah, sometimes the guy's not happy when there's the ball just in my hand. Never leave there. But what do you think? How much this helps you? Does you a native German speaker on the coaching schools, on the license? Because I feel sometimes so lost in translation. When you have an American guy stay up in front and speaks everything in English, everyone like, yeah, I got it. How much this helps you, just you speaking German and making these courses in German language, if you make it in German language?
I do it always.
Yeah.
I do it always. And I think in Europe, even English, like we can talk about any topic because we're like, it's our like work language at some point. And like not only English, but also football because it's an own language. So you can be very comfortable. And if you can kind of understand stuff we mentioned before, like effort. The effort is not only that you give your everything. Effort is something like, it's something different. Like it's a pure will to execute and also the finish in there. Like it involves. And if you just put a pure translation on it, you don't get the feeling about it, like what it truly means. So I always think it's to teach something, and especially terminology, and which is a lot of football is terminology, is the explanation of it in its language. And as we have the terminology in English and football, that's fine to use the English terminology, but you have to have the German background to really find the right words. And I think the same would be for France, for example, for Spain. If you would teach them in English, they wouldn't understand half of it, not only because of the language barrier. And I still think, even though we are very good in Germany, because all our imports say all the time, we never have problems finding somebody speaking English anywhere in shops or on the street or whatever, with the government. So I think there's still a lot of people out there, especially in football, who don't really are the best English speakers. And I think also that's why I decided to make that channel in German, not only for that, but also because I think that the language barrier is not only the translation, but also the explanation behind it. And I think that makes it a lot easier for a lot of people to get knowledge and to understand it, transfer it to other coaches. That's why I decided to do it. Like I could reach much more people with English, but I don't think that would be the right purpose. Yeah. Like later on, if I get 1 million requests to do something in English, but I don't think so, because English there's so much videos out there. Like when I started it, there were like 8 different channels that wrote me like, yeah, it's the same stuff here, blah, blah, blah. And it's like 100 videos plus. And it was like, yeah, it's in English. Like, it's not my, and also I know that I'm not going to earn money with that, because I know we have 2,500 coaches in Germany who have a license, and then perhaps 3 times that.
That much? I don't know.
Yeah, 2,500 licenses, 160 B license, 48.
Where all?
Roundabout.
Where are all these?
Where they are?
Like C license, you like there are a lot of teams. Like we have like at some states we have 7 divisions.
Yeah.
7, 8 teams per division. Then every state, that's a lot of people, and C license is very common in these days. Like, but I don't still think that there are a lot of teams who only have 1 or 2 coaches who have a license. So
yeah.
the Dunkelziffer is very higher. Like, I think there are much more coaches out there who want to learn, but perhaps are too shy, or don't have the time, don't have the money, like there's so much hurdles you have to take to do those things. And even to go like the Bavarian Clinic or whatever, or the conference there, I would go there, but for me it's a hell of a trip, and it's also money I put in there on top of what I do anyway, like coaching team, coaching the all-state team, coaching national, coaching coaches. Like this is, and a lot of people who invest time in football don't do it just a little bit. Like, so it's big hurdles they have to take, and I think that this way for me is a good way to transfer knowledge that's going to help a lot of people, hopefully. since now I got positive feedback from a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna keep doing it, but even if Corona stops. So because I think it's once everything is set up, it's okay. The beginning was pretty hard right now to set everything up and get everything running. But now I have a bunch of topics. I have to prepare them. That's a lot of things because I always do my own presentations. I want to at least because I think if you say something and use something others, the presentation, you always have to say, that is different. You have to think that way, or you have to think that way. And if you do it your own, you always have what you need.
Yeah.
What I started also was I asked the federation if I can use like clips from Huddle.
Yeah.
I can blend out the Huddle like overview and stuff like that. So it's just a video running in the middle of my presentation. But I wanted to use that as an extra tool for my stream, or like I stream sometimes too, but it's only in Facebook groups for German coaches. So, and then I cut up the stream, put it on YouTube, and then I'm gonna put up only YouTube videos right now, where I then hopefully talk about moving pictures, because there you can explain much more and better, like drills and how you do certain coverages, stuff I definitely want to do in the future. Like next week is going to be the first like special topic, because right now I did like defense, like pick a defensive system is still kind of a wide topic, but talk about, for example, cover 2 in depth, how to teach it and what techniques you need, and show the techniques and not only the scheme. That would be the next future, like parts, how to do stuff, or fronts and how you use that, and show pictures and show videos to it. And then I still wait for the federation now to get the allowance to use the tape from Huddle, because you can see the team names, the team logos, you can see GFL logos and all that stuff. I don't want to brand myself as a federation channel or something, but I think I need that permission, but I didn't get it yet.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that to put out like more quality content, I think, because the only presentation is only so good to a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
What about coaching coaches to coach? Because that's something where, and I can say this, even in the States, they don't coach coaches like how to coach, like how to speak with players. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the word choice. That's one big, like you learn X's and O's for the most part.
Yeah.
But just, I mean, you know this, like just the way that you speak to a player, and especially depending on the type of personality that type of player is very different. That's a lot of things that a lot of coaches don't know. Like, because there's some coaches out there, and I've had those coaches like that in college where they yell at everybody, you know, but there's only certain archetypes that you're allowed to yell at and so forth. So what I'm asking is basically like, are you also going to be getting into that aspect on your channel? And do you do that also with the federation licenses? Do you also get into that topic, or not really?
That was actually one of the 2 like series I already did. It's mentioning that in depth how you coach and how you teach, because I think that's one of the most important skills as a coach. I need to be a teacher at some point. So, and the lecture is called Sustainable Ausbildung, Apprenticeship. So sustainable education. So that you not only go into depth about how people learn. For example, when we now talk and you have a podcast and you only hear voices, the next day you remember about 20%.
Yeah. Right.
If you hear and see somebody, you're going to probably remember 50%, because only seeing something for a presentation, for example, without sound, it's 30%. And if you put those together, it's 50. So that's kind of a theorem I put in there, the archetypes of learning. And also that every person has kind of a tendency how he can learn best, for example. And that's theories I talk about in there, but also how we can adjust that to football practice. Because people do sometimes things intuitively correct, but it's important to understand how much knowledge you have of the stuff you do. and you can grade it. Actually, I also talk about that. You can grade it into you know something. I have to translate something.
Yeah.
Consciously. You have conscious and unconscious knowledge, and then you have competence about something. So you have conscious competence about something. This is the most highest degree of how you can handle knowledge in yourself. And unconscious unknowledge is the least. And most of the coaches that yell around and don't care about what you think right now is exactly that. They don't know how to teach, and they're not aware of that they're doing it wrong. The next level would be that you're aware of that you're doing it wrong.
Absolutely, it is. It's a wide topic, and the people hopefully enjoying your language, because we are close to hitting the 2 hours again.
Again? Holy shit! That went fast.
Yeah, exactly.
But I talk about it on my channel. There's even text translation, I think, because YouTube is really good in that stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's no problem, because next week we have on the show, because that's why Coach Philipp is doing this in German for you coaches out there. And next week we have a guest from the Switzerland Federation. And when I was last year in Switzerland, I was shocked. There's not even a coaching license.
What?
It's nothing for coaches. The coaches.
Oh my God.
A hard time to do it, and we are all yelling and mad sometimes with our federation. But when you look outside, we have a good system. We have a coaching school. We have A, B, C license. We have a lot of stuff. We have guys like Philipp out there who make it in his private time in German. So everyone hit up on YouTube. Stursberg Coaching on YouTube. Please check that out. And I think we have a great German coaches community. And like I say, when you look outside, there's other countries there way worse than we are. So we want to thank, because we posted this next week, but thank you for your Saturday time, Philipp. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys out there enjoyed. And yes, stay tuned, stay safe, and I hope we see us everyone on the field again.
Great to talk to you guys. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one. Take it easy.
Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.